Hi guys, welcome to the College, Career, and Civic Life, the C3 Framework for Social Studies presentation. We're going to be covering dimensions 3 and 4 today, and I'm Cameron. We're also going to be working with Celeste, Chelsea, Ken, and Minami. So you guys will recall that a goal of the C3 framework is to get students prepared for college, career, and civic life. As we will see in part of this framework, the C3, though separate, ties in quite beautifully to the Common Core standards and with the ELA framework. The appropriate pages for this overview are 53 to 63. We will go in chronological order for the most part, so please feel free to follow along if you have a printout version, and by all means use this as an annotation guide. So today we're going to be going over a little bit about the gathering and evaluating sources to develop claims using credible evidence, communicating and critiquing conclusions, civic engagement and social studies on both independent and collaborative levels, and again we're going to be tying that into the ELA and Common Core standards.
For the first part of Dimension 3, it's pretty straightforward. It says that, it emphasizes that students would be able to analyze information and come to conclusions in an inquiry, and also gather information from various sources and evaluate the relevance and usefulness of a source by identifying the author's purpose, main idea, and point of view. And then the end goal is to have students, as they progress, develop claims and counterclaims using the purposeful selection of evidence in support of these claims. Something that I thought was pretty cool from the graphic and the framework was like by grade 2, they're supposed to be able to distinguish between fact and opinion from a piece of evidence, which I think is pretty substantial in the world today.
So to continue, I will be discussing the ways in which Dimension 3 on evaluating sources and using evidence of the C3 framework connects to the English Language Arts Literacy Common Core Standards. So to begin, the ELA Literacy Common Core Standards have a broad focus on evaluating sources and using evidence from these sources as skills to help prepare students for success in both college and their career. The Common Core Standards state that students need to be able to gather, comprehend, evaluate, synthesize, and report on information and ideas from various documents and texts. Students must also use relevant evidence from the sources they evaluate, as well as clear reasoning to support their ideas in both writing and speaking. When speaking with their peers, students are also given the opportunity to evaluate and provide constructive feedback regarding their peers' use of evidence as well. I think giving students the opportunity to offer their peers feedback is a great way to help all students develop critical thinking and analysis skills that will also improve their ability to use evidence effectively and correctly. Moreover, through research, students can gather and evaluate information and use it as evidence in many ways, which the English Language Arts Literacy Common Core Standards highlight as skills essential to an integrated model of literacy that can be applied to inquiry in the social studies disciplines. The table here shows the connections between Dimension 3 and the College and Career Readiness Anchor Standards in the ELA Literacy Common Core Standards. The following are examples of these connections. Regarding reading standards, in the process of students gathering and evaluating information and developing claims using evidence from the documents and texts, students will need to use skills from the reading standards such as reading closely for meaning, and determining main ideas, details, structure, purpose, source type, and claims, while also comparing multiple sources as well. When working with their peers, students familiarize themselves with others' use of evidence to understand the importance of evidence in arguments. The C3 framework wants students to apply these skills in the process of inquiry in order for students to construct explanations and arguments that draw from multiple disciplines. When writing, students must use valid reasoning and evidence that is both relevant and sufficient when constructing arguments and writing informative and explanatory texts. Students might also engage in short and sustained research projects that are based on focused questions. However, a key thing to remember regarding writing is that the students must also make sure to use proper citation of sources to avoid the issue of plagiarism, which is a key concern for the C3 framework and of social studies teachers as well. Finally, when speaking and listening, it is important to view social studies inquiry as a collaborative activity. Therefore, students work, speak, and collaborate with and listen to diverse partners, being sure to express themselves clearly and persuasively, as well as build upon each other's ideas. The C3 framework emphasizes how students work through social studies inquiry in a collaborative environment. To conclude this subsection, there is an emphasis on argumentation as a skill to prepare students for college and career in the ELA Literacy Common Core Standards. Social studies disciplines, including behavioral and social sciences, stress the importance of arguments, especially the need to construct arguments that are supported by sources and data as evidence. Okay, so to recap, Dimension 1 was developing questions, Dimension 2 was applying disciplinary concepts and tools, and Ken and Celeste just talked about Dimension 3, which was evaluating sources and using evidence. Dimension 4 is communicating conclusions and taking informed actions. In this dimension, students will work together to communicate and critique their conclusions in public venues. So although most of the communication will take place in a classroom, the collaborating and the venue scale can range from an in-class group presentation to addressing real-world problems in a larger public community. This dimension supports all three features of the C3 framework, college, career, and civic life. However, it puts a special emphasis on the third feature, readiness for civic life, because it provides students the opportunity to take the knowledge and skills learned in a social science classrooms and apply it to leading an active civic life. The first part of Dimension 4 is communicating and critiquing conclusions. Through Dimensions 1, 2, and 3, students learn to formalize their arguments and explanations. And in this dimension, students have the opportunity to take that final product and communicate their conclusions to a range of audiences.
To continue this idea, the inquiry process outlined in the C3 framework suggests creating opportunities for students to critique their work and the work of their peers. Students should critique work through a method of examining sources, considering how evidence is being used to support certain claims, and the appraisal of structure and form of arguments. Critiquing and finding a deeper explanation of concepts and disciplines helps students strengthen their conclusion in the inquiry process. Another crucial aspect of the C3 framework focuses on taking informed action. One of the best things about being a social studies educator is that we have the ability to prepare our students for civic life. We hope students take what they get out of our classes through content and engagement and apply it to their lives. We should encourage our students to take an active role in civic life and duty. This includes preparing students to address public issues, take constructive and collaborative action, and learn to reflect on these decisions. Having these effective skills and knowledge allows the student to have a meaningful and active experience.
Hello again, and this will be a recap of Dimension 4 and how it ties into the ELA and Common Core, which will sort of elaborate additionally as to what Celeste was already speaking about earlier with Dimension 3, as there is significant overlap. But anyway, you guys should know that the ELA notes that the need to conduct research and to produce and consume media is embedded into every aspect of today's curriculum. You should recall in reading the ELA standards that literacy is beyond just reading and interpreting information, but it rather is the ability to read, write, process, and speak on topics demonstrating cognitive success. What is really beautiful about the fourth dimension is the presentation of knowledge and ideas covers the speaking and listening strand, while the production and distribution of writing covers the writing portion of the ELA. What these 2 points mean is that through communicating conclusions and taking informed action, as my colleagues just described, students are not only fulfilling their civic duty, but they are also better performing adults or soon-to-be adults in day-to-day functions because of their literacy skills that they develop. A key tie-in to social studies curriculum under the C3 and ELA guidelines is the ability to cite specific textual evidence when writing to speak or support conclusions drawn from the text. The C3 covers this in Dimension 3 and 4. Again, one needs to be informed decision maker rather than just an actor. If you are not already incorporating documents for students to learn and pull from, you should be doing so now. An easy way to get started on incorporating source material is through DBQs. Some are already available online, and other types of sources that might be helpful can be found on various other sites, which we have explored or are exploring in our resource assignment for this class. Students need to have access to documents and ought to be doing research in all of the units you plan out. Students will develop skills such as authenticity checks for sources they pull, as well as better citational skills via research. Plus, research can open the world of history to students on a much more fun level. As evaluated in this dimension, communication is key. In doing so by multiple channels and through differing tech tools, students practice and develop key presentation skills. The way you allow students to learn with a constructivist approach is crucial to the C3 and ELA Common Core standards. While Common Core does get a lot of flack, you're blind if you do not see the importance of ELA in making better engaged citizens and social scientists, let alone historians. I took an interest survey of my class, and a majority indicated they hated reading, yet a majority said that they loved history. And sure enough, when asked, what is history? The answer of that is written was a possible definition. And so thinking about that, is that history that is written meant to be unread? So on that last note, we're going to go ahead and conclude the presentation here. We hope you guys found this useful and were able to annotate your guys' C3 framework. We recommend printing it out. It's certainly a helpful document, as Group 1, who covered Dimensions 1 and 2, have already evaluated on Blackboard. So thanks for tuning in. We hope you found it useful and helpful, and we look forward to addressing any questions and comments you guys have. Best of luck in implementing these standards and guidelines into your lesson plans.